Of Extra Time. Thanks for joining us. Adam Pellerin here alongside Jahmai Webster, aka the Backwards Hat Bros, is getting it done. That's how we roll. We're just casual up in here, having a good time. What's up, man? How you doing?
Man, I feel well rested. I haven't seen you in forever though, so it's great to always catch up, man. What did you do last week?
Well, I did not have an all-star break because prior to the break, I went on vacation, went down to the Cape and had a good
That's
time with
right.
my family, some R&R, so that was a good time. I returned on Sunday for the last game before the all-star break against the Royals, which was a great win for the Red Sox. And then dove into some podcast work, our other podcasts on the Nesson Podcast Network. Boston's entered the chat, Foxborough Rush, and then did an episode of Extra Time for the first time without you and Sophia. And so
Yeah.
I did a podcast with the great Haley Hunter from SNP, Sportsnet Pittsburgh, who is basically our counterpart down there. She does rinkside reporting for the Penguins, and she does some studio work and does work with the Pirates as well, some sideline reporting and some studio hosting. So I got to know her a little bit, which was cool.
Was
She's
that your
great.
first time talking to her?
I met her in actually, Jemai, I actually met her in Pittsburgh in April when the Bruins were in Pittsburgh, and it was a national TV game. They had a pre and post game show. We didn't. We were just doing some stuff for digital, but got a chance to talk to her. Her dad played professional hockey, actually brief stint with the Pittsburgh Penguins, and played with Andy Brickley, our guy
Oh
Andy
wow.
Brickley in Pittsburgh for a little bit. So it was cool to connect with her and get her perspective on what it's like to cover teams like we do on this podcast. So and then I did the Dodgers game one of the Dodgers series, the only game on Nesson in that series, which you I know did as well. So yeah,
Yeah.
and ready to rock in Colorado. I know that's where you're at now, right?
Yeah, exactly. This is a two city tour, which is like, I mean, obviously I'm from LA, but I worked in Denver for 2 years, so this is like a homecoming two city tour for me, and it's been phenomenal so far. So I kind of got a taste of, I guess, what you go through, waking up every day and working in your hometown. It was kind of nuts. My first time working at Dodger Stadium as like a professional, in the business. So it was kind of a surreal moment for me. And I was just like soaking it in and just realizing how blessed I am to do what I'm doing. And it was like I had to pinch myself for a minute. A lot of times, just like sitting down there in the dugout, growing up there and going there as a kid and being a Dodgers fan and like just like watching those teams and being in LA and just sleeping at, my family's house and then coming to the ballpark was pretty surreal. It was just like, what are we doing, man? This is crazy. So
That's
I had a
awesome.
great time there. My brother was able to come down. My family was able to come down and watch me play my entire, I brought my wife, my kids. So we all were there a little bit earlier and just taking it in. It was pretty cool. So probably one of the highlights of my year so far. Definitely a full circle moment, but man, it was incredible. So I really had a blast with the one game that we did, and then got a chance to obviously go there and watch on Sunday because um, that game was on ESPN. But a Red Sox sweep, not ideal out the break, but three highly competitive games that actually, if you're the Red Sox, you walk away from all three of those games and the entire series feeling like you could have swept the Dodgers one or at least taken two out of three. So um, this team is gonna lot to develop over the next, I guess, couple days as the trade deadline approaches. So I don't think it's going to be anything that is going to sway the pendulum to the right or to the left, deciding what they're going to do with this team, adding pieces or deciding to continue to, I guess, have some sights toward the future. But uh, I feel like this team should be buying and they should get some more pieces. And like many people are writing right now, you get a right-handed bat and you get maybe some starting pitching, and then it's like then we go. So we'll see what happens, man. But exciting time for me, certainly, both personally and professionally right now.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot to peel back there. I guess we'll get into the conversation about the Red Sox and the mood around the team right now. As you mentioned, the trade deadline's coming up. You just got swept by the Dodgers. There's some pressure there, whether they'd like to admit it or not, as to, how this team performs is going to dictate what the front office does probably over the next 10 days or so leading up to the deadline. But let's get back to your time on the West Coast. Obviously, being back home, you talked about that, being at Dodger Stadium, grew up a Dodgers fan, and seeing all of your friends and family. You were off leading up to the All-Star break, Jahmai. So did you spend the entire time on the West Coast? You go somewhere else? And, what was your break like?
Yeah, most of it. I was very strategic in that regard because I knew that the Red Sox would be opening up the second half on the West Coast. So I went out there early, man. I was out there hanging out, enjoying my time, and we went to Disneyland, took the kids there, which was, man, Alex Cora took his kids to Disneyland, so we traded war stories about just how crazy that was, getting the kids there, and I mean all of us. So I'm talking about 7, 4, and 8 months. And my mother-in-law went with us as well, and my sister-in-law and her 10-month-old. So it was like, dude, what are we doing? What are we doing? And
Nice, relaxing vacation.
yeah, exactly. So it was a good time though. And my daughters got on the roller coasters and they enjoyed it, but my oldest was like mad scared. One of them was just a little bit too crazy. So there's this area, I think it's called Toontown, and it's supposed to be like a little, like, like a kid's roller coaster, but obviously like adults can get on it, and I got on it, and I was like, whoa, this is pretty intense. And my oldest was sitting next to me in the seat. My youngest was in the back with my mother-in-law. And I was like, whoa, this is crazy. Put your arms up and kind of ride the ride or whatever. And then I looked over and my daughter was so freaked out. Like she had this look like she had just seen a ghost. And I was like, are you okay? She was like, no, she was shaking her head. And I was like, I felt so horrible. But then the ride was still continuing. This was like, you know how roller coasters are. Like it's the first
Yeah.
intense part, then they slow you down a little bit, and it's like, oh, that was it. And it's like, no, there's still more danger or whatever. So then we're getting hit another, one of those turns where like the G force is knocking your body to the right. So I'm looking at her, I'm like, you're good, you're good. One little tear starts streaming down, and
Oh,
I'm like, oh my gosh, she's freaking out. I'm like, you're gonna be fine, and I'm like coaching her up through the whole thing. Hit one of those turns, and then finally we it stops, and then she's like, she's like that one meme where like you're crying, but you also have like a smile, that like the Chrissy Teigen one at the award
yeah.
show, where she's smiling but also like
Right.
crying inside and trying to be tough. But I was like, man, but that was her last roller coaster for a while, apparently, she said. But meanwhile, my 4-year-old's in the back with her arms up, like, this is the greatest thing on
Oh,
earth.
man. That's so funny, man. The different
And
personalities of the kids is
exactly,
crazy.
just brave, just brave. And then she got on another one that was like more for bigger kids. And it was amazing, man. But yeah, good times. And that kind of
That's
really
awesome.
solidified it for us. And, just hanging out with family, catching up with everybody, seeing all my boys, eating at all my
Yeah.
hot spots, getting
Mhm,
my in and
mhm.
out
Yeah,
multiple
that's it.
occasions. So, yeah,
Yeah.
so it was good, man. Good to be back home and good to just have that time to catch up with everybody because
Oh, that's
been a
awesome.
while. Been
Yeah,
a
for
while since we
sure,
all
man.
been there.
Yeah, that's great. That's
So that
great.
was
You had
my
a
All
chance
Star
for you guys to
break.
get together. Yeah, that's cool, man. And then obviously, we talk about the Dodgers series, Red Sox. Again, could have easily won 2 games of that series, right? Games
Should
1 and 2
have.
for sure, right? Yeah, you had the one
Yeah.
nothing lead late, and then Freddie Freeman comes through the grand slam, and then game 2. I mean, that was a good game. That was an entertaining game. I mean, I had an opportunity to
Hmm.
watch that from my couch, and the back and forth, and then the eventual loss to extra innings, and Kike Hernandez, the dagger,
Wow.
unbelievable, that guy.
Yeah, I
Two,
know,
the
man.
home run, and then the base hit, and he came through in the clutch a number of times, especially in 2021, the postseason. So that kind of stunk. And then obviously, game 3 played out the way it did with Cutter Crawford allowing the 5 home runs. So you
Yeah,
go from
it's
feeling
funny.
really good. Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, my question to you, Jemai, was you feeling really good, about the Red Sox being 11 games over 500, and you get swept by a Dodgers team, really that, you're like, oh man, they have all these injuries. This is a good time to play them. And then you end up losing. You guys had the flight to Colorado. I assume you got on the charter, correct, to Colorado with the
Yep.
team. So with that said, what's the mood like with the team now? And typically after a series where there's a lot of hype going into it, and then you sort of fall flat, and then there's the fallout. What was the reaction? Could you even tell? I mean, I know baseball is a season of 162. It's a marathon, not a sprint type of thing. But what was the mood like?
Yeah, it's funny because you mentioned it, and I was getting ready to say it. You really couldn't tell, man, with this team, which I guess is a sign of like just riding the wave and not being too high or too low. It was loud, it was obnoxious on the charter, like, guys playing cards, doing their thing, playing music, same thing. You got Nick Pavetta screaming on the plane, which is always a good sign, means the energy's high, considering they just got swept. I feel like, at least for this team, they feel like, yeah, we got swept, but we're in every single game, and again, we should have won 2 out of 3. We just got to find ways to close those games. You got to think about the fact that they're without Chris Martin, so a late inning elite arm that they have. Justin Slayton has risen to come up in those situations as well. Another guy who's on the injured list. So you think that, although you think about game one, Brennan Bernardino making a homecoming as well, being an LA guy and, kind of giving it up. I feel bad for him. He had like 40, 50 people there, to watch him his first time back in Los Angeles, as a big leaguer and being able to play a game and to give it up like that. He was steaming afterwards. You can tell, but that was his pocket though. As Alex Cora always says, he was, Will Smith has been one of the best hitters in the big leagues to this point. So it was like, as Alex said at the end, like you pick your poison. Freddie Freeman's hitting like 220 against lefties, still an elite hitter. Guy's a Hall of Famer. He'll be in there one day, but you just kind of tip your cap because I think he made the pitch he wanted to. Or no, he didn't make his pitch. So obviously he made a mistake, and elite hitters, they're able to crush those balls and do damage. But
sure,
that was pretty crushing Friday night. Saturday, seemingly so as well, because you had 2 leads. You come back in extras. Tyler O'Neill hits a parablast, and you feel like, okay, we got this done, and unable to close the game. So just further highlighting some more of those late inning bullpen deficiencies that the team has, because they had to go to Greg Weissert for 2 innings. That's usually not a situation that we see him in, not in a tight game. Those are some high leverage innings, the high stress pitches. You're trying to make them, and I think they would have rather on 3-2 going to Kike there when he got the game tying 2-run shot, probably going back to a sweeper because it's pretty elite. And he threw something that he didn't usually. And Kike, Kike, he's a guy who is always trying to come up in those big moments. Like he wants to do something great. So he was probably ready to swing. You bury that in the dirt, it's a different situation. The Red Sox win that game, and maybe they come back Sunday night and they have a little more pep in their step. Even though they did rally, and then Kenley Jansen, gave up a lot of those runs, they wouldn't have been, in such a deficit. Things would have been much different. But I just feel like the vibe of this team is pretty even. They feel like they fought hard, and to steal a phrase from the old Yankees radio broadcaster John Sterling, that's baseball, Susan. That kind of happens, and it's just as you said, it's a 162 game season. I forget the phrase; it's leaving me right now, but it's not a 1 game season or whatever it is. It's
a marathon, not a sprint. Yeah,
right.
I mean that's the one that I think of all the time when it comes to baseball.
Yeah.
But obviously, you don't want to see him get swept. You would have liked to have seen him at least get a game in that series. But now you go to Colorado. You're in Colorado now. You got a 3-game set against the last place team. So, hopefully the Red Sox are able to do some damage there. But the other thing that you mentioned earlier is that the trade deadline is right around the corner. And so, we've seen over the last couple of years, the trade deadline, a big topic of discussion here because the Red Sox are sort of on the fringe, right? They're still in the mix in the wild card race. And they're going to buy, they're going to sell, they're going to do something in between, which we've seen them do the in between thing. We've seen them basically stand pat. And now the question this year, now that they're a little bit further ahead in the standings that they have been in the last couple of years, is whether or not they'll add. But I don't want to ask you about who you think they'll add or what do you think they need. I want to ask you more about again, you talked about the vibe of the team after the loss to the Dodgers. Can you feel this sort of looming cloud of a deadline in the clubhouse, being around the team? Because it's not just the Red Sox, obviously, that are going through this. It's every single team in Major League Baseball, and every team is in a different situation. There are teams well ahead in the standings, like the Dodgers, like the Phillies in the American League. Obviously, you got the Orioles, Cleveland, and doing their thing now. And they're feeling really good about themselves because they know they're going to the playoffs and they know they're going to add something
Yeah.
at the deadline. The Red Sox, based on the last couple of years, haven't really added much, and they've fallen flat in the second half of the year, unfortunately. But now you're in a situation where you're a little bit better, and you've persevered. Really, you had all these injuries, you've been able to win games and stay in the mix. So on one hand, you'd say, yeah, they should add to this team, but then there's some uncertainty as well, right? You mentioned Kenley. He was mentioned in trade rumors, early in the season. So with
Yeah.
that said, all to say, what's the vibe around the team heading into the deadline?
I think, and it starts at the top with the manager, Alex Cora, who he addressed the team on Friday. And part of his message was, listen, guys, we're not general managers. We're not chief baseball officers. With the guys who are here in this clubhouse, we can't control kind of what the front office might do, what they might not do, who they might add, who they might subtract. We got to go out and play baseball, and we got to win a game, come back the next day and try to do it again. We lose, turn the page, come back the next day and try to do it again. So this next 10 days, which is Friday at the time, is not going to dictate kind of who we are or what we do. So I think in talking to several of the guys, and even Tanner Houck, also on that Friday coming off his All-Star game appearance, his first one, it's the same story. Like, they got the message, loud and clear, and that's how they're going to approach it. I think they understand what they need, but they also feel like, they're a good team and they can compete. They can get this spot. The thing is, and Alex had mentioned this several months ago, when they were kind of teetering on being a 500 team, winning one, losing one, winning one, losing one, going on this streak, about how he was asked about what they've done at the deadline the last couple of years. And he mentioned, something along the lines of, it's not that we were a bad team, it's just that everybody around us got better. Like, they added, we stayed the same. And so the situation and the season kind of played out how it did because of that fact. So I think they feel like they can compete right now with what they have, but also like enhancing and investing more into this team would be a great benefit as well. Because you've had guys take leaps like Jaron Duran this year, Tanner Houck, one of those guys, even a lot of the pitching staff, and Cuther Crawford had a tough one just on Sunday night. But he's another guy who's taking a step and he continues to evolve and figure things out. So right now, you essentially, like, even the last game of the Colorado series is a TBD for the starting pitcher. That's probably going to be a Cooper Chris start, but you're piecing together your rotation at this point. You got Criswell making spot starts. You also have Josh Winkowski kind of in that mix a little bit. So you could push some of those arms to the bullpen, bring in a starter, somebody who's going to be able to do what you expected Lucas Giolito to do, like eat up some innings, be also give you guys a chance to win basically on a nightly basis. So I think it'll be a disappointment for this team. Like, they'll persevere and they'll fight through it, obviously, but I think it'll be a disappointment if they do nothing at the deadline. And I'm not talking about trading away major leaguers. I mean, they got a pretty good prospect list of guys who could be, somebody else's future, even some guys who have been established, who could, be a benefit to someone else right now as major league ready guys, and, change the scenery, whatever, what have you. So it'll be interesting to see how things play out. And, this is going to be a quick second half, quote unquote, because it's like 60 something games left now. And we got through 100 of them. So
Yeah.
it's gonna
Right.
be it's gonna be crazy, man. It's gonna be crazy, and it probably gonna feel like we get to the end, you know, pretty quickly. So it feels like there's a sense of urgency there, and something that kind of needs to be done. And I think when one domino falls, then other pieces will start to fall around the league because nobody seemingly wants to make that first move, and that's something that we saw last year. We didn't really see a lot of activity at the trade line, it seemed. But
No.
I'm guessing because there's so many more teams in the mix, could be different this season.
Yeah, it could be. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. You mentioned Tanner Houck as one of the players that's taken a step forward this year and sort of want to transition to some all-star game stuff, right? And by the way, you can watch us on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook, Spotify, Apple, Amazon Music, wherever you listen to your podcasts as well. You're listening to Extra Time with Adam Pellerin, Jahmai Webster, Sophia Yerkstovich. We're hoping to have her back the next few weeks or so. She's
Yeah,
enjoying some well-deserved PTO north of the border in TO. Last time I think you saw her was actually when you were in Toronto, Jahmai.
yeah,
So it'll
good
be good
times.
to reconnect with Soph at some point. But anyway, wanted to transition a little bit all-star game wise, and you mentioned Tanner Houck, and obviously giving up the home run to Shohei Ohtani in the All-Star game was kind of a bummer. But like, I mean, it's Shohei Ohtani, so it's not the worst thing in the world to happen,
Yeah,
right? If it's going to be anybody, it's like Eck used to say, I was proud to give up a bomb like that to that guy or something like that.
right.
But you had an opportunity, Jaren Durant, obviously All-Star game MVP, Rafael Devers selected, didn't play. After the All-Star game, when the team got to LA and the second half started, you had an opportunity to talk to Tanner Houck. And, Jahmai, from the outside looking in, because, again, I cover the Red Sox from pre and post game perspective, and I'm not in the clubhouse like you are. I'm not around the team as much like
Mhm.
you are. I've had interactions with Tanner Houck before. And, I mean, he seems like just a great guy, just a nice guy. You see his demeanor on the mound. He's just like, he could be pitching, game 1 of spring training or game 7 of the World Series. You can't tell, man. He's just so calm and cool, and the moment doesn't seem too big for him. And listening to, the interviews that you've done with him and listening to him speak to the media, he seems very thoughtful in his answers and very respectful of what you do in asking questions and answering questions to the best of his ability. What was his experience like at the All-Star game, and what is it like to cover him?
Well, he is everything that is, that you advertise as far as, what you see from the outside. Really great guy, really great dude, level-headed, grounded, and no moment is too high or too low for him, as you talked about. And that's what you kind of love about him. And you mentioned Eck, and he used to call him Cool Hand Luke. There's a few more
Yeah.
nicknames floating around for him now, but that's kind of one that sticks out to speaking to his personality. But he's a great guy. He really is, and he's going to do well in this league. And the fact that he's turned things around and he's figured things out now, as a professional here in year 4, year 3, year 4, year 5, for him as a big leaguer, has been, a pleasure to watch his turnaround. And his All-Star game experience, he tells me that, despite the Shohei home run, which by the way, he didn't put that pitch where he wanted it, but he
No, you could
said
tell.
that he said, he's a 3 pitch pitcher, and he wasn't going to go out there and like change who he was or do anything different. For him, it was about the experience. And so I asked him, when did you first realize kind of this is actually happening? Like, you're an all-star. He's like, the first time, I looked at that jersey and I had it, in the clubhouse there in Texas. It kind of really sunk in what he had accomplished. So, it was an amazing experience for him. He had his wife there, Abigail, and he said they had the time of their life. He got dressed up and he was on the red carpet and doing all those things that come along with it and around, the best of the best. So he was just soaking in the experience. He enjoyed it very much. And then, another one of my questions to him actually too was, now you've done it. So it's like, all right, this may have been a goal in mind, or, how do you approach this? Like, how do you get back? He was like, not really. That not really the way that I look at it. He said this is kind of culmination of the hard work that I put into the season, and also the hard work from the teammates that have done it around me. I couldn't have got it without them. I couldn't have done this without them, because it's a team sport, and my success is, dependent on what else is being done on the field, right? So I thought it was a really great answer and really thoughtful, but I think he'll get back there for sure. And I like kind of that approach. He's very process oriented and he's just thinking about this is what I need to do. And then those things will kind of come along if you do the job that you expect up to your level, up to the type of pitcher that you are and who you represent. So, which is very true, actually. Like a lot of people approach it differently. Like, you're goal oriented, you have goals and you strive for that and you're able to accomplish them that way. But this is kind of something that I really don't hear much from athletes and people who are at the highest level about how they approach these things because, we hear guys all the time, like in the off season, I want to do this, I want to do that. He's just like, if I pitch well and almost taking it to this macro level or I make this pitch, now I got to make the next one. And like just
Mhm.
focusing on that and it's all building up to become this bigger thing. And that's the way he approaches his starts. That's the way he approaches his season. That's the way, he approaches the All-Star game talk and stuff. So it's great to watch him evolve into this big league pitcher that he's becoming. And it really is a joy to have him around. Really one of the great guys in the clubhouse. Great to talk to, always about anything. And, he's got his philanthropic efforts too. So he does stuff
Yeah.
in the community and he's tapped in and he understands, the bigger picture here. So really, really good dude. One of the good ones on the team, one that you kind of enjoy being around.
Does he like the Hulkamania nickname?
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't
I
like
asked him
it.
about that. No. He's like, I actually asked him, this was because,
Really?
Jonathan Papelbon, not that he doesn't,
Yeah.
I shouldn't, let me be clear. Not that he doesn't
Okay.
like it. He's just
Right.
not like, yeah, he's not leaning into it. You know what I mean? He's not
Right.
like, all right,
Well,
let's go.
yeah.
Let's go. This is it. So,
It's
Jonathan
probably because it's
Papelbon came
part of his
up with it.
personality. Yeah, yeah, right? Like his
Yeah, I mean, that's part
personality,
of it
he
too.
doesn't
Yeah.
yeah. I gotcha. That
So
was
I
interesting.
asked him, I was like, dude, you gonna like you're embracing the Hulkamania? He's like, no, not really. I'll leave it to Pap. That was like his answer.
Oh, okay.
And
Alright.
I think it's very cool. Like if it were me, I'd be like, yeah, let's go, Hulkamania, be ripping my shirt off and all that stuff. But
Yeah, man. I
he's
did
not
the
he
Hulkamania voice for one of those, like, promos that ran on Nessa. It was posted on social media. I was real proud of that,
oh man.
you know?
I
But
must have missed
anyway,
that one, dude. I would have been
yeah.
resharing that like there was no
Yeah.
tomorrow.
I'll share it with you, dude.
Yeah,
And
please.
did he talk about riding the bull in Texas at the All-Star game?
No, I didn't get a chance to ask him about that. That was
Alright.
pretty funny though. Him and
It
Jaron Duran
was
got to
kinda
do that.
funny.
It
Yeah.
was. And have you ever ridden a mechanical bull?
Nah, man. Nah, you?
So there was this Hollywood hotspot in back when we were in college called Saddle Ranch. I don't even know if it still exists, but they had a mechanical bull in there. And it was like one of those places where when you're just 21, like you go there and it'd be cool because the vibe would be nice. And there was a mechanical bull there. So I rode mechanical bull once. Didn't really last long because I'm not a cowboy. I'm no
Mhm.
Yellowstone John Dutton. But but I can see how I think it's pretty much equivalent to like doing the real thing to a certain degree. Obviously, a wild animal is predictable, but I'd imagine I'd liken it to doing the real thing if you were asking me. Although I haven't done it, I'm just saying.
Yeah, I haven't done it either. I don't think I'm going to be honest with you, because at this point in my life, as I get older, like you got to take calculated risks rather
Yeah.
than just like like I don't want to like jump up there and then like like tear something. Like I'm all set with doing that. Actually, it kind of makes me think of what happened and get into a larger, bigger picture about All-Star games and different sports. Um, you see Aubrey Plaza, WNBA All-Star game. You see what happened to her? She, actress from Parks and Rec. She was in White Lotus.
No. What happened?
Yeah, WNBA All-Star game in Phoenix. They were having some sort of celebrity challenge or whatever, or she was just at the Phoenix Mercury practice facility playing a game of knockout and tore her ACL.
In knockout?
Yeah.
Dude,
Yeah. And she's
that's
like
brutal,
40. She's
man.
like north of like, so like the 40 rule is like, man, like,
Yeah.
I don't know, like if I want to be riding no mechanical bull, like, I mean, I'm all set, but
Well,
like that kind of,
basketball is a very explosive sport. I guess even in knockout, but I mean that's kind of
yeah,
brutal, man. That's showing some unathletic. That's giving unathletic. That's what I'm
yeah,
feeling right now.
yeah, or
Also,
just ultra
she probably didn't
competitive,
stretch.
maybe. I don't know.
Or
Yeah.
yeah, you got to stretch. You can't go out there on a basketball court and just cold and start hooping. That's one thing I
Yeah.
know you cannot do. So that's brutal. That's a tough way to have an ACL tear.
So, with that said, All Star game, right? American League ends up winning. Jared Duran gets the MVP in Arlington, Texas. Um, I've always enjoyed baseball All Star game. I didn't
Hmm.
enjoy the uniforms this year in the least.
Yeah,
I'm all for bringing back like the team uniforms for the All Star game because those, especially the American League ones, are just gross.
yeah.
So hopefully, I mean, do you agree with that? By the way,
I mean,
the
yeah. I
uniform.
mean, I'd like to just have like an American League cap or a National League cap, and yeah, wear your uniform.
Yeah,
I think
and
that's
and
cool when you
because
see all the uniforms out there.
yeah, so baseball, like, I mean, I get it. Like, if you don't do it in basketball or football or even hockey, but they do a 3-on-3 now in hockey. But because with baseball, like you're all your individual positions, right? And you're not like like in basketball 5-on-5. If everybody's got you got 10 different uniforms out there or whatever, that can be a little confusing. Even though one team's probably got the whites on,
Yeah.
the other team's got the right. But
Right.
in
Well, they did this
baseball,
before in the NBA. They've done it before where they wore their
they
uniform. This is
have
like in the '90s. I remember.
it's too much. I think it's too much
Yeah, I
on
mean
the
it
court.
is, but you got the home whites and then the darker or the
Yeah,
home whites and the away team darker jersey. So it's kind of like you kind of know who's on your team, but that it's difficult, I guess.
yeah.
That's probably why
But
it's
like
only been done a few times.
yeah, and this All Star game thing, like in baseball, they gotta fix that. How about the uniforms have been like a huge thing this year, not fitting right. The
Yeah.
name's too small, and then you get to the All Star game and you got these things. It's like what is going on? But um,
Yeah.
I don't know. So in terms of the All
Highlighter.
Star game, like I love watching the baseball All Star game. What's your favorite All Star game to watch, like in any sport?
It'd probably be baseball too. I mean, baseball got it right. And I used to love, and a lot of people might hate this, some of the, more um purists of baseball. I used to love when it dictated who had home field advantage in the World Series. You give these guys
Yeah,
something to play for. I actually enjoyed that. So I love the baseball All-Star game because the pitching, like you want to see some elite pitching. It's just like the movement on these guys' pitches, the velocity. I think that is what attracts me to it because you don't see this on a nightly basis. And if you're just tapping into the game, at the All Star break. It's like a showcase and arm talent. So that's one of the things that I love. And then you guys obviously have your sluggers, your Aaron Judges, your Jose Ramirez, guys who can hit bombs, Juan Soto, and you got some big stars in the game. So I enjoy it from the pitching aspect, but I think baseball's got it right. They do it the best. Second, I mean, you didn't ask me to rank these, but I'm just going to do it, I guess. I would say basketball second, just because of and it's not really much about what's happening on the court. It's just more so the weekend surrounding it. Like NBA All Star Weekend is just this big event. So you got celebrities coming out, you got people, dignitaries of all type of fields and entertainment, sports and entertainment, whatever. And I think that's pretty cool. You get everybody together, and then like basketball. It's like these are global superstars. So I always enjoy the dunk contest, although it's fallen off, off the several
Ugh.
years. And the game obviously is not even there's no defense being played. It's just like it's tough. But basketball is one of those games where you can't do it halfway, but if you do, you don't want to go too hard because you want to avoid injury. Like it's supposed to be fun. It's more so like a culmination to your first half, like your hard work.
Mhm.
And then I'd
Yeah.
say I'd say hockey is probably next. That's always pretty exciting, the 3-on-3 stuff and the skills challenge and who can skate the fastest and hardest slap shot. It's pretty cool to see kind of some of the strength and power in the game and speed and finesse. And then the Pro Bowl is down there, and that used to be up there for me when it was in Hawaii when I worked there. But now having it in Orlando, it's like, dude, this is not even, this is not even a something that I would want to be a part of. This is not even something that is like, hey, you had a great year, you're a Pro Bowler. It seems, I mean, Mac Jones was a Pro Bowler. No disrespect, but it's like,
Sounds like some.
I mean, I guess it was, yeah. Anytime you say no disrespect and then you follow it up with a statement, it's kind of disrespectful. I do realize that. But yes, anybody's a Pro Bowler nowadays. So it's like the stars don't play in the game. And I remember when it was in Hawaii, it was like, and obviously Brady was playing in a lot of Super Bowls, but even those few years where he wasn't, like he went to the game like once or twice. So like you get guys who are like, no, my season's over, I'm done. Like I'm gonna just chill with the fam, go on vacation, be in Ibiza or whatever, what have you, and just be living it up until next mini camp.
Yeah.
So I would go that direction with it, but baseball is, but I mean, I guess all All-Star games are tough, but baseball is probably the one that I most enjoy watching.
Yeah, so I would agree with your rankings except for one. By the Pro Bowl is by far the biggest joke going. Like it's
Yeah,
so stupid. Like I mean, I'm sorry. Like it's just it's after the season. The teams who are playing in
yeah,
the Super Bowl are playing the following week. So nobody from
right.
those teams are even there. Like, and it's just pointless. It really is. Like, but I get it. I understand why they do it because it generates revenue, whatever. So fine. Um,
Yeah, somebody's
number
watching
three
it.
for me. Yeah, number three for me is NBA now. It never used to be. It always used to
Wow.
be. Yeah, because I don't know, man. It's just it's a tough watch. It's a real tough watch. Like, it wasn't like didn't it get north of 200 this year? Like 200
Yeah,
points?
I mean,
Like,
200 total
and there's
points. Yeah,
it's nowhere close to resembling the game of basketball. It's an absolute like
it's
it's a snooze
it's
fest because it doesn't show off talent to because there's nobody playing defense.
right.
Like anybody could score. You and I could score in the NBA All-Star game. Like that's what sort of waters it down. And the dunk contest just doesn't have the names anymore. Jalen Brown, right? He took part in the dunk contest this year, didn't he?
Yeah,
Or was he supposed to,
yeah, he
right?
did.
Yeah, he did. Which was good. But like over the years, just seeing these no names, G leaguers take part in
I
the
mean,
dunk contest
but
now.
that G leaguer who won though, he did bring some excitement. I forget his
I
name
guess.
right now.
But don't you miss like
Uh,
seeing like the big names like in the dunk
yeah,
contest? Like, I mean,
yeah,
doesn't that build up like excitement? And then the NHL All Star Game is second for me because while it's 3-on-3, there's a draft process and there are four teams and it's a tournament and there's some excitement that's generated with that, and then you mentioned the skills that go along with that. That's always fun to see, players zooming around the ice and then seeing
mm,
the hardest shot like that's pretty cool, and then the skills competition too with trying to like hit the corners of the net and all that stuff. So I enjoy that. But baseball is number one, and baseball's number one because it's the closest thing to the real thing, right? Like it's an
right.
actual game. Like there's no sort of like, all right, we're gonna throw, the guy's gonna get on the mound and throw 80, so so Shohei could hit one 500 feet. Like that's the kind of thing that happens in the NBA All Star Game. Guys don't play defense; they allow these crazy alley oops to happen, and all that stuff. Guys are jacking it up from like half court, but in baseball, like they're actually playing. This is a game. Dudes are going out there throwing 100. Guys are out there
Mm,
trying to hit, trying to like win. Like it's an actual game, and it moves along great. Like it was 2.5 hours.
mm,
It's a real enjoyable product, and it's I think by far the closest to the real thing, and it's entertaining. But let's move on. I got to get to a couple All Star game things. So what event in any sport at an all-star game, right? Like we've mentioned the dunk contest, the home run derby, and all these things. What event would you be best at? If you just said, hey, you know what? I'm going to
mm.
insert myself into one of these competitions. What would it be?
Well, considering I just, you know, got my only base knock in the Red Sox Yankees media game the other weeks ago, and it reminded me how difficult it was to hit a baseball. Um, I would say not the home run derby unless I got some practice. If I was in the cages and I was hitting consistently, which would take too much. So like if you're saying like, hey, this is next week, you're gonna participate in it, it would not be the home run derby. uh had you asked me 10 years ago, it might be the dunk contest. I can get up there, one hand, two
Oh, really?
hands. Oh yeah, man. I had some major bounce, man, when I was playing
Wow.
basketball. So I can still jump a little bit. I can, probably dunk straight up, but that's the extent of it. Nothing exciting. I'm not gonna do any 360s or any crazy things. I don't got the lift like that anymore. But
Mhm.
um, it wouldn't be, yeah. So it wouldn't be that. Definitely not hockey. We're not doing that hockey. I can barely
Come on,
skate.
Chance.
I can barely skate, to get up and down the ice. So, although, man, let me get a hold of one. I can have a killer slap shot. So maybe I can get
On
hit it to
skates?
like 50 miles per hour. Yeah, maybe 50 on skates, and then I'm falling after that.
Uh,
Um, but yeah, I mean, Pro Bowl, no. I guess nowadays it's flag football. So maybe it'd be
just
NBA
yeah.
All Star, and then flag football be pretty proficient. Trying to hit some of those targets or something in skills, because I used to play quarterback, man, when I was coming up. So um, I still got a little bit of a good arm, decent, solid. I can get things done. What about you, dude? I'm interested to hear this list.
Lists. What are you talking about?
I
I ain't
mean,
no
I
list.
mean, yeah.
um, no, I don't know. I mean, I've been going back and forth between a couple. I think, probably the Madden game. The Pro Bowl. You play video games. I'd probably be best
Yeah.
at that.
Wow.
Nothing
Wow.
athletic. No, no,
Nothing
no,
athletic at all.
no. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, the home run derby. I could put a couple baseballs out still. I think.
Yeah.
But I would probably say 3-point shootout. I'd probably say that. I'd probably be the
Oh,
best at that.
you know what? Actually, can I change my answer?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Because yeah, actually, you know what? I could do that. I could do that too, because I was a shooter. You give me 25 balls in the rack, um, shooting like that. Maybe I get 15 of them in there. Who knows? Um,
Yeah.
once I get into a rhythm, I think actually, yeah, that'd be pretty cool to do. Uh, I don't know how we can set that up. That'd be awesome to give it a
Yeah.
shot to see. But
Yeah.
but
We should get out on the
yeah,
court. We should have a competition.
yeah,
We should
maybe
get
a three
like
point three point shootout.
yeah, we get a competition between like the on air people in Essen or something. Like we could do
Yeah,
that.
we'd have just maybe a couple balls. We wouldn't have entire racks, but just keep passing it
Yeah.
back and pulling up
What
for
would
the
be in a
jumper
broad
and letting it fly.
What would be in a broadcasting? Quickly, we're running short on time. I want to get through this. What events would you have to a broadcasting all-star game, like akin to like a home run derby or 3-point shootout in basketball?
A walk off interview, like
Yeah,
we'll give you a scenario and then let the juices flow, because that is so unpredictable. Maybe also maybe an interview with a subject who is not necessarily wanting to speak with you, give you some
yeah,
opposition and some frustration. That I've had to do with that when we were talking off air just about you and your news career. And on
yeah.
election night, I filled in once quickly,
Ooh,
against a candidate who lost his election. He was getting ready to concede, and I had to interview him, and it was just
oh
getting
wow.
sound. But when I got there, their campaign manager was setting it up as these one-on-one interviews, and I was like, man, I haven't been following this guy's campaign. I don't know much, but I mean, I'm pretty locked into the politics, I guess, in my local politics. So I'm like, all right, I got a few questions for him that I can make it sufficient to get a soundbite. This dude was not having it. He was like, what kind of disrespectful race is this, where they send the sports guy out to interview me on my concession? So
The sports
it
guy
was
doesn't know
uncomfortable.
anything about politics.
It was uncomfortable, man.
That's
It was very
hilarious, man.
uncomfortable.
I
But that'd
think
be two events I
that's
create.
hilarious. All right, so I'd probably do like a breaking news scenario where you have like bullet
Oh,
points of information, and then you have to put together a minute on camera, no script, just the bullet points, and you have to deliver it, and whoever delivers it the best wins. And it's subjective, but I think you'd have
yeah.
a panel of judges, maybe like TC. would be on the panel, or, because he's such a pro. He's above the competition itself. He is judging
Right.
the contestants. So I think that would probably be it. I think we're actually running out of time. I think we're done, man. Like that always flies by. It's like 45 minutes.
Yeah,
It's like
exactly. I feel like Jimmy
that.
Kimmel at the end of this. I want to
Yeah,
apologize to Matt
yes,
Damon. We
it's
ran out of
Matt
time.
Damon. Yeah. Well, we miss our girl Sophia.
Oh
We'll have
man,
her
need her
back
back.
soon. Yeah, I know, but it's always fun hanging out with you. Good to have you back. And
Yeah,
we'll
man.
do it again next Monday. Good luck in Colorado and the Yankee series at Fenway. I'll be with you on the desk in spirit. Doing the pre and post game the Rockies against the Rockies. So
All right, man.
for Jahmai Webster, I'm Adam Pellerin. This has been Extra Time. Thanks for listening.